The grace of athletes never ceases to amaze onlookers, as the control of their machines, terrain, and bodies exudes countless hours of practice and dedication to their craft. But sports is also home to a plethora of dangers, as these athletes witnessed firsthand. Chuck Hughes, a rising star of the NFL in the early 1970s, was in his prime as he had previously set a number of college records for Texas Western College, including one astonishing feat of 17 interceptions in one game. He was drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles in 1967 and then traded in 1970 to the team he'd end his career with, the Detroit Lions. On October 24, 1971, in a game against the Chicago Bears, Hughes entered in the final minutes as an injury replacement for another player. After a few plays, Hughes suddenly dropped to the ground as he made his way to the huddle, clutching his heart and seizing. Despite medics rushing over to help, Hughes died of arteriosclerosis and is the only fatality during an NFL game to date. A top-notch player in the early years of Major League Baseball, Ray Chapman was a prime bunter for the Cleveland Indians, then known as the Cleveland Naps. But in 1920, during a game with the New York Yankees, pitcher Carl Mays threw a thunderous spitball that struck Chapman in the head with such a force, the audience believed the sound of a crack from his head was actually that of a baseball bat. Chapman collapsed to the ground, and while he was able to step off the field, he died just hours later. The spitball was subsequently banned from the sport after the incident. Reggie Lewis, one of the premier players for the Boston Celtics in the late 80s and early 90s, was one of the NBA's top players and earners, scoring $3.3 million per season. Tragically, Lewis would collapse and die due to heart failure during training in an off-season game at the age of 27. While rumors of Lewis's cocaine use ran up the tabloids, the medical examiner found no such traces in his autopsy. Lewis's death stunned the NBA, as his promise as a basketball player only continued to grow up to that point. Brazilian Formula One driver Ayrton Senna was, by all accounts, the master of his domain when it came to racing. A winner of 3 championships, Senna dominated the sport for 10 years before meeting a tragic end in 1994 at the San Marino Grand Prix in Italy. As he led the pack into the 7th lap, Senna's vehicle went off track, striking a concrete barrier at 135 miles per hour. Senna was rushed to the hospital via airlift, but was pronounced dead not long after due to his injuries. He is to this day considered one of the greatest racers of all time. Todd Skinner, an American free climber, was never unaware of the risks in scaling mountains. Still, while attempting to rappel the Leaning Tower in Yosemite National Park with his friend Jim Hewitt in 2006, Skinner fell 500 feet after his rappel snapped due to wear and tear. Hewitt quickly rappelled down after his friend, finally finding his body at the base of the mountain. After a short pause waiting for help to arrive, Hewitt, realizing help would not be coming, left to seek park rangers. Skinner died from his injuries upon their return, issuing a warning to climbers to always check that their gear is in top condition. American race car driver Dale Earnhardt, also known as the Intimidator, is widely considered one of the greatest drivers the sport of NASCAR ever claimed. After a career of winning a number of prestigious tournaments, Earnhardt was involved in a fatal last-lap crash while driving the Daytona 500 at the Daytona International Speedway on February 18, 2001. His official cause of death, a basilar skull fracture. In 2006, he was inducted in the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, and in 2010, the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Bill Masterson, a professional Canadian-American ice hockey center for the Minnesota North Stars, is the only player to die as a direct result of injuries during a game in NHL history. On January 13, 1968, Masterson faced a severe internal brain injury against the Oakland Seals while playing at the Met Center. The impact from a collision with opponents Larry Cahan and Ron Harris caused Masterson to bleed profusely from his nose, ears, and mouth. He received emergency medical treatment in the dressing room, where he fell unconscious and then was rushed to a nearby hospital, but died without ever regaining consciousness on January 15th, almost 30 hours after the collision. Antonio Puerta, a Spanish football player, led his team Sevilla to achieve 5 major titles during his career with the club. But during a La Liga game with Getafe on August 25, 2007, he suddenly faced a series of cardiac arrests and died on August 28, 2007, the result of arrhythmogenic right ventricular dysplasia. After just 30 minutes playing, cardiac arrest caused Puerta to collapse in the penalty area at home ground Sanchez Pizjuan. A warm tribute to the fallen player was seen on August 31, 2007, when all the participants printed Puerta on the backs of their jerseys in the game of Sevilla versus AC Milan.